Covington schools decided we needed a culture fix, so we called Will.
This work and about talking about values, it's going to be focusing on the best of who we are and the best of what we got, you see, defining that and then using that to change some of these attitudes, mindsets, behaviors. And we want not just the leadership and the teachers to be using the words, but we want everybody, the students, to be using them too, to be using them between each other.
You know, really, and we've kind of talked about it, since coming back from COVID, you know, just hasn't been where we feel like it needs to be. So the direction is now to try to start this process of where this is now the language.
This is the norm.
This is the norm,
Yeah.
and students and staff and everybody is just kind of trying to hold each other to it. All right. Well, this past school year, Mr. Scott came to basically probably the principals, and they wanted to put together a group to help kind of bring a culture to Covington that was more positive and everything. So they have a company that's what he does, but usually for businesses, but they come in and set up questionnaire. Started out with a few students and the staff, and then they ended up doing all the students. And one of the number one things that came up was the word Trojan pride on most all the kids' results.
Yeah,
and so
it's kind of a big slogan.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yep.
And so what we did, you know, there was some parents on the club, middle school, high school teacher, 3 or 4 elementary teachers, some students, and then we had students come in. They came over and interviewed students in the library and did a lot of different things, but came up with Trojan Pride. And so the acronym of that is PRIDE, for positivity driven, attitude is a choice, effort equals success, respect all, hear and be heard, give it to get it, inspired integrity, do the right thing, have the courage to act, determined kindness, we before me, it's cool to be kind, and then excited participation, be a crazy. We talk about the Covington crazies. Life's more fun this way. It's kind of a trademark thing. And then, of course, our new mascot, Troy the Trojan.
Yeah.
That's going to be the future part of everything. And so we're going to have, I guess, like giant fat heads of him.
Yeah, a lot of the iconography that's going to be happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What if we had bobbleheads of him?
See, I'm thinking that's a huge win, in my opinion.
That would be great. I'm looking up how to make bobbles.
How to make bobbleheads on Google, yeah. So you're seeing on screen Troy the Trojan, and that's what we're looking at. We kind of debuted the unboxing last week, right? Because one of our groups did that. So, yeah. So what does all this mean, and where are we headed?
Well, you know, the big thing is, you know, really, I mean, we've kind of talked about it, since coming back from COVID, you know, just hasn't been where we feel like it needs to be. So the direction is now to try to start this process of where this is now the language.
This is the norm.
This is the norm.
Yeah.
And students and staff and everybody is just kind of trying to hold each other to it. Eventually, you know, there's going to be some videos kind of talking about it, but the first Friday of next school year, there's going to be an assembly, all the elementary, the high school, middle school. We're going to have the cheerleaders doing things. We're going to have the band play. We're going to have just, you know, shirts for the kids and everything, and just kind of promote it of the direction that we're wanting to go.
Get everybody involved and
Yes,
invested
exactly.
in the program. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Troy the Trojan will be there.
Hype.
So, yes,
Hype.
let's go.
He needs his own Twitter account.
Yes, he does.
You know,
good
like
idea.
Troy the Trojan. Write that down, Stock. Bobbleheads, Twitter, social media for Troy the Trojan. and we've seen it in action up here in the high school. Have you seen it yet, Mr. Beaver, in action?
I have not. I just saw a picture that you guys took.
I've only seen the
and
picture.
he was holding.
Oh,
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
He
in
was
real
holding
life.
T Kindle.
yes, that's the one we just popped up.
Yeah. So I just think it's exciting, and I hope that it's something that is embraced by everybody. That's
It is
in
large.
Covington. Yes, well, it
Large
should
in
be.
person.
It should be. Doggone
It's
it,
awesome.
You know. So
Well, I don't know which group it is, but during the what's it called, the street fair, they always have Sam the Eagle walking around.
Yeah.
right.
I hope
Yeah.
Troy the Trojan's walking around too.
My
Absolutely.
understanding, I think that's
As much as he can with those giant clodhoppers. Mhm.
But I think that's the direction they're really kind of wanting to go, is that whenever there's a special event throughout the community. I think they're really liking for him to be there and represent and
Getting the name out in a
get the
positive
name out.
light.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome, everybody. We've got a special edition of the Bagman Podcast today. We've got a super special guest, Will. We'll bring Will on here in a second. As usual, I've got Stock's in his French room right now with the class.
Hi, everyone. Class.
It
say
is.
Okay.
Hey, there we go. It is third hour here at Covington High School today. I've got a clock behind me, shows what time it is. But we've got a super special opportunity to talk to Will Scott of the Culture Fix. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Yeah, with the book and everything. Look at this. He's got the merch ready to go. So
I'm wearing my
welcome to the show,
uniform.
Will.
I got the book.
Hey, you know how to do this. You've done this before.
Yes, I've done a few podcasts, but this is my favorite podcast so far. Because
That's right. That's right.
I haven't done a live podcast before, Greg, and I certainly haven't done it for my favorite client and community in Covington, Indiana.
That's right. I like it. So, Will, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into what we're doing as a collaborative effort with you guys.
Yeah, well, when I was a boy growing up in Zambia, I used to love building tree houses, and I used to put a lot of effort into building a really cool tree house. But I was always a little hesitant before inviting friends in there because I didn't want my friends to kind of mess with the mojo and what I was feeling. I wanted to have a really great experience, and I wanted them to have a great experience. So my little 10-year-old self thought about putting rules up on the side of the treehouse. Rules, and one of them was always being nice to each other. And so as soon as my friends were like arguing or being mean or doing something that wasn't cool for everybody, I would say, hey, everybody, remember, we all agreed to be nice. And they would just say, oh, yeah, sorry, well, that's right, rules of the clubhouse. They just went along with the rules. They didn't argue. It was the rules. And so I find this is very, very helpful when a community defines who they are and what behaviors they find acceptable and want to live by, and then remind everybody about that, which is what I find myself so delighted to be doing today, is helping organizations, a lot of them corporations, but also now organizations, like Covington Community Schools, and helping them put values up on the walls. And not just empty words, values, but values that are really personal and that are attuned to the community that we're talking to, and that they can then use to, just like I did in my clubhouse, get the behaviors that they want. So what I do today is help organizations codify their values and then, most importantly, live by the values. Craig.
Very cool. Stock, did you want to jump in there? You had a question?
With what? No, I had no question.
Awesome. So that's a great intro to what we're doing here today. So Covington's now your clubhouse, right? And we're starting kind of a multi-year mission in order to, redefine and enhance and elaborate on what we do and kind of take it into the direction that we want it to go in, maybe. So what does that entail here at Covington?
Yes, well, so one of the things that's different about the way we do culture at the Culture Fix is we involve everybody in the community. And it was really a great moment for me when we were initially asked to come in and just help the teachers with their feeling across the 3 schools. But before long, we had added, of course, the other major stakeholders in the community. We had the students involved in the process. We certainly had teachers involved, but we also had the board of directors involved and also parents. So we surveyed everybody, and this is what we do to find out, really what the values are that exist in the organization, and don't just dream them up or make them aspirational or bring them from the outside. And so hopefully everybody, even if you didn't see those emails, you're every email student, you were asked, and perhaps you saw me in the library, perhaps you saw me in the lunchroom, all that was gathering who we are and how do we define that as our community. One example, Craig, that came out strong, and I remember being in the library with some of the high school students, some of the seniors, and pride, school pride came out as, something that was a value that we all can value. And we see that pride, raging, for example, in when the crazies are watching a basketball game, don't we? And so we ended up with an acronym for our values at Covington, which I think the teacher Troy has introduced. PRIDE, standing for our 5 main values that we discerned from the community. We didn't make them up. They came from you. So very proud of that.
Yeah, and that all started with the big survey. A lot of the kids remember the big
Yes.
survey at the beginning of the year. Teachers took it as well, and we had some pretty detailed conversations in a couple of my classes about what that actually means and where we are and where we want to be. So I thought that was a really good starting point, and it's kind of evolved into this now, where we've got the pride, and then we've got Troy coming in who can help reinforce all of that. And there's some really big things on the horizon, I think, as well, as we look towards next school year. So
I do have
at least
a question
I've been
now.
apprised of.
I have a question now, everyone.
Yeah, Stock, what do you got?
Okay. Well, we, the teachers at Covington, we've kind of identified this as an issue stemming from COVID. Have other organizations seen similar situations since COVID happened?
Yes, there's no doubt that what you're experiencing post-COVID in your community with perhaps a lack of engagement, a lack of enthusiasm, is certainly true across other organizations, or has been. But I feel that is getting better now, and the world is getting back to normal. And certainly when we do work like this and we help people define our values, which is really defining what we have in common, right? There's so much division in our world today, and there's so much division around our views of the world and how we live and different people and all those things. But one thing we can agree on is values. What do we value and hold dear? And that's what we've captured at Covington. And I think when we launch, and as you say, Craig, this is coming up, when we launch in the new term, just in the first week when we all come back to school, we're going to have an assembly, and we're going to launch this and reveal it. And Troy is going to be there in costume. And what we find, Stock, is that post doing that and then living the values and having processes to talk about them and lift each other up when we see them representing those values, this really helps us all get engaged again and get back to normal and start having the kind of environment and ecosystem that we really want to live in.
Okay, great. Sounds
Very good. Stock, do either of your kids have any questions that they want to ask?
Kids, now's your time. Don't be
Yeah,
scared.
and this is an interesting tidbit for you, Will. I've
Yes.
got Callie and Michael who are over in your meetings in my class right now. So
Oh.
they're engaged as well.
Hi, Callie. Hi, Michael. Isn't Michael the dude that put on that did the reveal and put on the Troy suit?
Yeah, the YouTube video I sent you. Yes,
No,
they did the unboxing. Yeah,
nice
Okay.
work,
It's
Mike.
yes.
Before we
Could be
came,
a really heavy and hot at night if you're wearing one of those.
Yes.
before we came on, I asked my kids in here why they thought spirits were low at Covington. And Ben, you had some ideas. What were some of those ideas?
Lack of enthusiasm and lack of support of sports.
Okay. He
Yeah,
feels
can you relay that?
Yeah, I've got it. Extracurricular activities, whether they be sports, the arts, whatever, aren't as supported nowadays as they used to be, even pre-COVID. And that comes from, they're not supported by the school administration, the school teachers. There's more focus on education, the academic side. Teachers probably say the other thing, but also parents, community, there just seems to be less support for the students nowadays.
Well, I would definitely encourage us to go in the opposite direction on that one. So whichever student asked that question, I completely agree. And so we have got lots of research at the Culture Fix that shows, and there's been actually recent research about this. When students are encouraged to do the arts, the overall learning goes up and they perform better academically. So it's actually crazy that we're doing this. Now look, schools that are poorly resourced, I see schools all over the world, and many of them are very poorly resourced, right, in developing and countries like that. But in America, we have so much resource that I believe we should be, holding the candle up to the world about best education, incorporating all of the arts. And I'd like to say that we live by what we say here. You'll see that when we reveal our core values for Covington High School, and you know this, Craig, I've been asking you and your departments to help with this. We're not just going to have, black text on white pages. We know that imagery is very important. And when we combine words with imagery, we augment our communal intelligence. Picture tells 1,000 words. Our memory goes up and everything is better. So you're going to see us putting imagery with the words. You're going to see us using costumes, aka Troy, to make those values come alive for us. And we're going to use gestures that are going to make that come alive, and song. We're going to have cheer coming from the cheerleaders. We're going to have music coming from the band. This really makes a much more engaging and exciting environment for everybody. And we have a theme song. And when I go to companies, really stodgy, kind of boring companies, and help them, we still do the same thing, imagery and theme song. And that's when people have a little, squirt of excitement, and they get energized about the art. So it's a great question, and we need to try and resist that, because it's better for everybody. Our lives are enriched when we have the arts in our lives, as well as academics. I don't know how we even separate the two, really.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question then. Will, please tell me Tina Turner is going to do our theme song.
Well, we would bring Tina Turner, but we've got our own band, and so we're going to be using them for our cultural launch. But what is that student's favorite Tina Turner song?
Oh no, I'm the Tina Turner fan.
Oh, well,
All of them are my favorite.
I don't think you have the legs for it, Stock.
I used to.
Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. All right.
But one of my companies did choose Tina Turner, one of my clients, for their theme song, though.
Okay.
It was simply the best, right? It's the best, better than all the rest. Yeah, Tina Turner. Come on.
They just made Stock's day.
Yep.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
All right.
Covington Schools is simply the best and better than all the rest.
I like that. I like that.
So,
go ahead, Stock.
Life then.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Yes. No. So I could share a little bit, if you like, about the values and what we're selling and how we got there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we mentioned the survey, right? And we surveyed all the different stakeholders in the community. So we looked at, and we got over 500 responses from students who completed our 19-point question survey. And look, some of the things that the students are feeling are this sort of little bit disengaged. They're looking to get excited about school again. Some of them, and there's some other things that we hope to address with our values that are maybe not cool. It's communism doesn't have a real problem with this, but bullying is something, to pick on something. Bullying was mentioned in the surveys from students, and when we have great values, we're hoping that folks whether it's teachers to teachers, teachers to students, students to teachers, all these different interactions, where we can look to the wall, see our values, and then use those to prevent behaviors that we don't like, such as bullying. And so one of the ones we've gone from, which came big from the surveys, was respect. Respect who? Well, respect all. And so we've got this gesture that Troy's going to do, where you kind of bump your fist to your heart, and that's respect. That's how we show respect. So we've got a gesture for it as well. And we've even got a little catchphrase here, which is on the daily. So when you respect all, on the daily, it's on the daily. That's respect all. And then the words that came from folks is it's to hear and be heard, right? We didn't make this up. We heard this from the school. We want to hear and be heard. And that's one of the ways we describe respect. And then this idea of give it to get it. So first interaction, we're going to give it. We're going to assume respect, right? And then give it to get it. So each of these values has two descriptive behaviors or two bullets, supporting them. So if we see somebody jumping the line, that's not cool. How does perhaps a junior challenge a senior who's jumping the line for lunch? Well, I hope they would say, hey, and point to the wall and say, hey, look, one of our values is respect all, And when you jump the line, I don't feel like that's respecting me. I don't feel like you're giving it to get it. Or they can talk about our value of inspired integrity, where we say, do the right thing, dude, and have the courage to act. So we want that senior to look and say, oh yeah, sorry, you're right, junior. I mean, I probably shouldn't be doing this. It's not doing the right thing. And by the way, respect to you for having the courage to act and to speak to me and challenge me when I'm not living the behavior. And when cultures and communities can do that, that is when we create an amazing, safe, rewarding environment for everybody. And so we're going to be really helping everybody use these words every day to create the kind of experience that we want to have in our school.
I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think, Stock? Stock, I know this is all new to you, right? You haven't been part of the meetings. You haven't been CC'd on the emails and stuff.
Right.
How are you taking all this right now?
Honestly, and I feel comfortable saying this because of my age, I suppose. It's a nice pipe dream. What is it going to be like in real life? I've seen so many programs that are nice on paper and they just don't work in the real world. How are you sure that this is the right thing for us? And my kids are getting ready to leave, so.
Okay. Well, okay. So this is perhaps the important thing then. Before they go, I would like them to realize that how is it going to be different? Because of us. We need to be the leaders here in every conversation, and we need to set the example for others. So the teachers need to do it, the seniors need to do it, the juniors, and everybody needs to learn this. And look, let's address. There's been quite a tragedy that's happened at Covington Community Schools this year, right? There's a tragedy that saddened all of us, and I believe if we use these words, we can help all these things be better and help all of us live better and not have to, resort to drastic action. One of our values is determined kindness, which is we before me. And we say it's cool to be kind. So I hope if anything unkind is happening, anyone's feeling sad, that we're going to step in and be able to say, hey, let's show a little determined kindness here, because that's what we do at Covington Schools. And it's we before me. And by the way, it's cool to be kind, so don't be right.
Yeah, and it all comes back to how we model stuff, right? So administration, teachers, staff, if we're modeling this behavior, the behavior that we want, then we can expect it out of the kids. And then when we expect it out of the kids, we can kind of hold them accountable to that. I think that's where it all boils down to.
That's absolutely right, Craig. Yes, thank you for saying that. And that's why we're so careful about putting words to this, because we need to be able to roll those words out, in the restroom, in the hallway, in the cafeteria, when needed, when we don't see the behavior. That's why we're going to put these, make sure everyone knows them, has them close to hand. We're going to have individual discussions in each classroom led by the teacher after that we have that assembly back in the fall when we come back to school.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big reintroduction to this whole program for some of us, but the introduction to a lot of kids is when we come to school in the fall. We're looking at that first Friday, I think, when we come back.
Yes. What is the date of that? Who's got the date of that?
19th of August, I believe. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Whatever
Yeah.
that Friday is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of cool things happening before then, a lot of onloading of this. And I do want to give a shout out to Brooke Pettit and
Yes.
Troy Beaver. They've been really, really big and keeping me in the loop anyway. And they've done a lot of work and kind of gone the extra mile for this. So I do want to
Yeah.
give them a shout out. As Stock welcomes more kids into his room, different kids,
Got new
I
group.
want to reintroduce our guest. We've got Will Scott from the Culture Fix here. He's talking about culture at Covington Community Schools and what we've been doing to kind of get everybody on the same page as it comes to culture and what we expect out of everybody. Will, is there anything you want to mention before we get to the speed round? The speed round, the most difficult round in all of podcasting.
Well, yes, actually. So one of the values I haven't talked about yet. Let's talk about excited participation. The E in pride, right? Excited participation.
Absolutely.
Where our first bullet point there is, because again, we're not making this up and isn't kind of corporate language. We're using this language of the school, right? And so
the school language, yeah.
Yeah. So the expression for like excited participation is bet, right? This is kind of sort of the lingo that we use. And Troy is going to be doing the victory pose for excited participation, right? And our first bullet point there is be a crazy. Now, when you're asking me, what do we do about lack of engagement and just people feeling more checked out since COVID? Well, we only have to look at our own very own crazies at a basketball game to see what excited participation looks like. And are those students, are they engaged or are they disengaged during those games?
Well, we want them to be very engaged, right?
Well, they are, and we see that, right? And and then the other book we have for this is, hey, life's more fun this way. Life's more fun when we are excited. My father always used to say, you get out what you put in. So, if the student's feeling checked out and disengaged and is kind of blaming the environment around them, I would say you're going to get out what you put in. Lean in, get involved, go to chess club, get your parents involved if something's not happening, and make a difference. Make a difference. And it starts with us. I love studying conscious leadership. And the number one, 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, it's a book if anybody wants to get into it. The number one behavior of a conscious leader is 100% accountability for everything that happens to us. When we do that and stop blaming everybody else and take responsibility for our own lives, that is where things change. And it begins with us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You get out of it what you put into it. And I think society's kind of lost that thread somewhere.
Yes,
it
definitely.
seems like. Everything's expected to be done for you or done to you or whatever. And we don't want to put in the effort to get something awesome out of it. And we lower our expectations sometimes in order to deal with that, which is not the right way to deal with things, I think. So, Stock, is there anything else you wanted to ask real quick? Or?
Well, this just turned into a philosophical debate, and I feel I'm prepared for it.
It always does, Stock. It always does. Will, is there anything you wanted to mention before we get to the speed round?
Oh, sorry, was that for me? Look, there's one more value we haven't talked about yet, and that's positivity driven. So if I talk about this one, then we've covered all five. So positivity driven, right, is the P in pride, in our acronym for our values and our definition of our culture at Covington Schools. And we define that with the high five. The gesture is the high five. So again, you're going to see when Troy's going around his costume, whether it's Michael or somebody else dressed up as Troy in our mascot uniform, high-fiving people, that's positivity driven. That's one of our values. And that was something that came when I was in the library with a whiteboard asking students from Covington, what do we value here? And they talked about positive attitude, and which we see in our sports and certain aspects of everything we're doing. And attitude is a choice, is one way we describe that. And effort equals success. Kind of following up on what we were talking about in excited participation. Attitude is a choice. Begins with us. and effort equals success. Don't expect to get, have a great life if you're not going to put in effort to go after that and have some success. So that's covered all the 5 values now in some way in this podcast. Craig, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I think I had a teacher when I was in high school that would put this on the board at the beginning of every year. And it was, your education is your responsibility. And that's not excusing himself from being the educator or a facilitator of education or anything like that. That's saying you're going to get out of it what you put into it. If you want to learn programming on a higher level, then you're going to have to take some initiative. If you want to be the best baseball player, that's 1,000 hours at least of throwing and playing catch and hitting, right? It's all about effort. Yeah, effort and attitude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nobody achieved anything great without putting in a lot of effort. Yes.
You are 100% right, Will. All right, Stock, we're going to speed round real quick.
Can I ask first,
Okay.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was. One of my favorites of all time.
Good old Greg.
No slight to you, Stock, but Mr. Grant, he was a gem.
Yep.
Okay, well, we've got 5 questions that we ask of all of our guests. We call it the speed round, and it's just basic stuff about Covington that we think is stuff that's really important that we like to highlight. So, if it's okay with you, the first one, we've kind of touched on it. How did you get here to CHS? So, how did we contact you? Who made the initial contact? And then what was the process of getting you here?
Well, what happened was I had the fortune to do a little presentation on the culture fix and the things that we teach around creating great environments where people can thrive and be the best that they can be. And we did that for a number of the superintendents of schools in the great state of Indiana. And your own superintendent, Brady Scott, saw it. He saw the value in it. And he was the one that brought us in, along with Deb Lecklider, who works with a number of schools across the state. And so between the two of them, they got in touch with me, and we talked about bringing the culture fix to Covington schools.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Second question. This is probably the most pertinent question we have for you. What does Trojan pride mean to you? And we ask this of all of our guests. Yeah.
You know what Trojan pride looks like to me? Trojan pride looks like after the biggest game of our basketball team of the season. And it was an away game, but we lined up buses and we got people tickets and we got our students there for that big game. And the crazies were there in full force. And we lost the game. We just lost it. But after the game, we went to the stadiums on the other side and helped pick up trash. And the other side were kind of, I don't know, hollering at us or whatever, but we picked up trash at the game where we gave it our all. We didn't quite win, but we still stood through the Trojan pride and lived our values. And if that didn't demonstrate being positivity driven, respecting all, inspired integrity, determined kindness, and excited participation, the values that, define us at Covington schools, I don't know what does.
Yeah, what a great reflection on our kids and our community. That was the Fountain Central game.
Yeah.
Wow, what a fun night.
And what a story. Yeah,
absolutely. What a great time. And that got picked up by some local news sources, and it kind of got spread around on social media. And big props to our kids for initiating that and having a great night that night.
Cool. It makes me feel emotional, really. It's an awesome story. Yeah.
It was very, very awesome.
Yeah.
Next question. What song describes you, Will?
I think I'm going to go with Life is an Adventure. I think that's the title of the song. It's by Coldplay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Life is an Adventure. It's just a tremendous song. I find it very upbeat. It lifts me up. And I was introduced to it by a friend, actually, who's the CEO of a company in London. And one of the magic parts about that song is the chorus. And if anybody's feeling down, I encourage you to go and listen to this chorus, because the words are, some of the words are, we are legends every day. And we are, all of us are legends every day in some way. And then the verse goes on to say, under pressure, we become diamonds. And, life isn't easy, but if we step into it and do the things we've been talking about in this podcast, we can all be diamonds. Pressure makes diamonds.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Great
Yeah.
point. Fourth question is our most hotly debated question. Well,
And there is only one right answer.
I hope you're ready for this. My
Uh-oh.
answer is traditionally not the right one,
No,
according to Stock.
Okay.
All right. Sock,
I'm
sock,
ready.
sock, sock, shoe, shoe, or sock, shoe, sock, shoe. So when you're getting ready in the morning and you're
Yeah.
putting your socks and shoes on, is
Oh.
it sock, sock, shoe, shoe, or is it sock, shoe, sock, shoe?
For me, it's absolutely sock, sock, shoe, shoe. I hope that's the right answer.
follow-up question though. Where are your pants? Is it pants, sock, sock, shoe, shoe, or sock, sock, pants, shoe, shoe?
Oh, interesting. Pants. I look. I'm a hat wearer. I dress from the top down. What can I say?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Oh, I love it.
But it is sock, sock, shoe, shoe.
Yeah. So you pass Stock's test.
Yes, you're a keeper.
All right, but I'm going to think about that some more. I
Yeah,
haven't
right.
heard that question. I've never had that question before. Funnily enough.
And then our last question, and then we'll let you go. Enjoy your time in South Africa.
Yeah.
What would you like your legacy to be? And that can be either here at Covington High School, or it can be in general in your life. What would you like your legacy to be?
Well, look. Let me direct this at our students and at our community in Covington, because I would love part of my legacy to be that we are really, living what we teach at the Culture Fix, and that in 6 months' time, in a year's time, in 3 years' time, when all of our high school have graduated and moved on, that Troy and what he stands for is still on the walls, and students are still helping each other to live those values, so that we turn the dial a little bit in terms of determined kindness. We turn the dial a notch in inspired integrity. We turn the dial a little bit in respecting all, and having excited participation come back to our community. And of course, being positivity driven. If enough of us, 2,000 parents, 1,000 students almost, over 100 teachers, if we can all turn that dial a little bit in these value driven areas that are our values, the legacy will be that we have a greater community that's turning out greater students and greater leaders of our future. So that's what I would love to see as our legacy from Covington Community Schools.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I like that.
Will Scott of the Culture Fix, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on, making time in your day to talk to us today. Stock, any parting words?
What's your favorite part of South Africa?
My favorite part of South Africa is the greeting that the Zulu nation uses.
Hey, we're going to learn something.
To say hello. They don't just say hi, how are you? And like we do in America, and oh, fine, good, They say sawubona, which means I see you. And when a Zulu says sawubona to another Zulu, the response greeting is yebo sawubona. I see you, seen me. And I think all of us in this world actually would like to be seen, and seen for who we really are. When they say sawubona, it's not just I see you, the kind of physical embodiment of you. And by the way, Zulus believe we are not even human until we are seen by another human. And they don't just see the embodiment, they want to see into the soul.
Do we lose Will?
I think we lost Will. So no sawubona.
That's an awesome point, though.
That is.
And that's how we'll close it here in a second. We'll see if we can get him back here in a second.
Okay.
But what a great greeting.
Yeah.
Did you write that down?
I did.
I was wondering because I didn't know how to spell it. But that's how he signed his email that I was looking at earlier.
Right.
So maybe we adopt that, Stock. Maybe that's our podcast intro from now on.
Okay.
As we close down, I do want to thank Will for being on today, making time. I think it's like 4 or 5 in the afternoon over there. Stock, thank you and your classes for making time for this. I think it was a great experience. So what we'll do is we'll take Mr. Beaver's podcast, we'll mix it with this one, and then put out one long podcast with our new promotional video
Sounds great.
and make a day of it. Hi, Stock's 4th hour.
Peggy will have something to watch.
That's right. All right. Well, we're going to stop the recording. Thanks for joining us, Stock, and then I'll see you probably next hour.
Okay, we'll see you.